In this video we're going to talk about Bible paper, which is, I think, a too often overlooked subject. You know, a lot of times when we're talking about getting high quality Bibles, premium Bibles, people are thinking about the cover and the look of the Bible, but it's easy to overlook the paper that the Bible is printed on and how important that is to having a good quality Bible. I did notice that it was mentioned in an online Bible group on Facebook where someone was talking about paper is really the most important thing when it comes to premium Bibles, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. So I thought I would just do a video to show you some Bibles that have really good paper. These are higher end Bibles, and it's one of the reasons the Bibles cost a lot. You might think the reason a Bible costs so much is because of the cover and the construction materials that make up the cover and the binding and all that, but actually the paper has a lot to do with that price too, and I think a lot of people miss that. Now, the Bible that I'm looking at here is a Thomas Nelson Premier Collection 2nd edition thin line Bible, New King James Version. And my opinion about the Thomas Nelson Bibles, these are printed in China, is that they're very good quality. If I had to just rate the highest of the high Bibles, I would say they're second tier. They're really good, and part of that is the paper. They do use what they call a European Bible paper, and you can see here an example of what good paper is like, although I wish you could feel it and really get the experience, because that's really important when it comes to paper. Part of it has to do with just how durable it is. Also, the opacity, how much show-through you get, considering the weight and the thickness of the paper. So this paper here is very good. And if I zoom in for you, you can see it is line matched, so that helps a lot with the ghosting. There is some ghosting that you get on this Bible, but it's really not bad at all. And when we get into poetry, you can see that that still looks really good. So good quality paper, again, it has a good feel to it. It also doesn't have a lot of show through, and it's going to be very durable. One other thing you'll notice with good quality paper is even the coloring of it versus lower quality paper. So let me show you another example. Now, I actually think this Bible here, this is the Allen ESV 1 printed by Ludlow. And so this is a pretty new printing, and the paper on this was printed in China. And in my opinion, the paper on this is probably a step below what I just showed you from the Nelson. Allen's, when you get a Bible from Allen, you get various levels of quality in their paper just because of where they are producing them. The binding is always going to be really good, but you're going to get a lot of variance with paper because the text blocks are produced in different places. So again, this was printed in China. The paper on this, kind of typical of what I've noticed in some of my Allens, is kind of a crispy paper. And I mentioned color of paper. This is a very white paper, but the show through is still really good. This is not line matched. This is the classic ESV layout, and yet you do not get a lot of show through. So even with a China printed Bible from Allen, you're still going to get pretty good quality paper. And I would rate it probably just below the Thomas Nelson paper that I have here. But I would say the binding and the art gilt and everything that go into this, as well as the ribbons, still make this as good a quality, if not better quality, than the Nelson. So I can understand why Allen is in a special place here. But this paper, printed in China, is, really good. It's still good quality paper, just in my opinion, maybe not quite as good feeling as the Thomas Nelson. So now I'm going to get into better quality paper than what I've even shown you here. I mean, that's really good paper, but I think now we're going to get into some of the best quality paper on the market. And the first one to demonstrate that is the ESV reader, New Classic Reader from R.L. Allen. And I only have one reader, and this is an ESV. I don't have an NASB, but I assume the NASB has fantastic paper as well. And again, this has kind of a crispy feel to it, but this again is not line matched, being the classic layout of the ESV. So you do get that show through, but I would still say the look of this paper, the feel of this paper is really nice. And I will tell you, with some of these Bibles that are really high end, you can just tell when you're feeling it, when you're holding it, that these are very good quality materials. And I think the paper on this reflects that. So this is really good paper. I think we're getting into some of the best paper now on the Allen readers. If you compare this to the other Allen that I showed you, I think that the paper on the reader is probably a little less bright white, although it's very similar. But again, overall, if I had to rate the paper so far of the ones I've shown you, I would say this is the best paper on the Allen reader. But I think there is even better paper as good as this is. And I will say too, as a caveat, that every Bible, especially that you get from Allen, is going to be unique. And the different batches that they make are unique. So just because this reader has this level of quality, you may get a reader that has even better paper than this. But I'm just showing you based on what I have. So the best quality paper that I have seen in a Bible, I'm going to show you here in the next few Bibles. And I also want to see if you can figure something out. Can you guess what each of these Bibles' paper has in common? All right, so that's the question, and see if you can get the answer. Some of you Bible experts may be able to figure it out. Now again, you can't really tell on camera. I'm just showing you here as best I can what good quality paper is like, as best I can do that through the camera. And again, as you can tell, this is a Skylar Quintel that we're looking at here. And this is a green goatskin Bible. But when you get into the Quintel series from Skylar, I think you're looking at some of the best paper out there. This is a 36 GSM paper. And the last Bible that I showed you, the ESV reader, is also 36 GSM. So similar GSM paper to the Allen reader, but in my opinion, it just has an even better feel to it. It has just this really smooth feel, kind of a coated feel, and I would just say you can tell by touching this paper, turning this paper, looking at this paper, really good. In terms of the show through, again, this is line matched on this particular Bible, so that helps a lot too, like the Nelson that I showed you before. But this paper is just fantastic. 36 GSM, people love it, and there's a reason that people love the 36 GSM paper so much. It has a little bit more of a hefty feel to it, for writing things like that, underlining verses, that can be helpful to have a little bit heftier paper. I will say it makes it a heavier Bible, but man, the paper on this is just fantastic. So I'm going to give some of the highest rating paper to the Skylar Quintel, and kind of right with that is the Skylar personal size Quintel. And again, very similar to what I just showed you, line matched, not a lot of show through, just beautiful paper. And when you feel this paper, I wish you could feel it. Somehow I could help you to be able to know what it feels like. I can only do my best to describe it. It's just so smooth. You can also tell paper is nice just when you flip it, and it just has such a nice feel to it. So this is 28 GSM paper. A little bit lighter paper than the full-size Quintel that I showed you, but the 28 GSM paper is what they're putting now even in their full-size Quintel Bibles that they're currently producing at Skylar. And they are really, the paper on these still is really good, even though it's 28 GSM. I think it's fantastic. And so I would say the Skylar Quintel and PSQ are some of the best paper out there, and because they're Skylar, it's very consistent. Allen has some great, amazing Bibles, but again, it just depends on where the Bible was printed and some other variables with Allen's. But with Skylar, it's pretty consistent, and the paper that I've seen so far from Skylar is, I mean, all these Bibles are great, and that Allen I showed you is fantastic, but this is even maybe a step up. But I will say the best paper that I have on any Bible that I have so far is actually from an Allen. And can you guess which one it is? This is the Allen 52 long primer. I have a video on this if you'd like to learn more about it. But I'm telling you, the the paper in these other ones, you know, I've shown you increasingly good paper, and then you get to this paper, and I'm telling you, this is amazing. I would say it's very similar actually to the Skylar Quintel paper. I wouldn't say it's really like a ton better than that, but just somehow the way that they made this, it just came out so perfectly. And the paper just has this wonderful feel. I don't even know how to describe it. Again, I think this is a 36 GSM, so that's part of it. It does not have a lot of show-through at all, even though that is not line matched technically. This is an older printing when this print was developed, I think in the 1950s. Now this is a new printing, but I'm telling you, the way that the print looks on this paper, which is another thing about good quality paper, the print tends to stand out really well. So this Bible, I think, is just the best of the best. The only thing I've noticed, which can happen with really any good quality Bible, is sometimes you still get some page curling when you have the Bible open. Sometimes the corners will curl a little bit. But overall, the paper on this is just absolutely wonderful. And I think it has just this balance of being kind of, it's smooth, and yet has a little bit of texture to it. I just love the feel of it. It's just such a fantastic feeling paper. And so, out of all the Bibles that I've experienced so far, I have to say the Allen Long Primer is really amazing paper. So I asked you before, can you guess what all the best of the best paper Bibles have in common? And I can't even include this Bible too, this Allen Reader. Can you guess what each of these Bibles have in common in terms of their paper? And it's not actually the weight of the paper, the GSM, although 36 GSM is fantastic, there's no doubt about it, but 28 GSM can be awesome too, as I showed you in this one. What really I've noticed about these Bibles that they have in common is that they were printed in the same place, and I think the paper came from the same company. They were all printed in the Netherlands. So I guess my takeaway from all of this that I've been talking about is, if you're looking for a high quality Bible and you really want the best of the best paper, be on the lookout for a Bible that's printed in the Netherlands. Now, the Bibles that are being printed in China, they have some really good quality paper, and I showed you that on the Nelson, but I'm just saying these Bibles are even a step above that. I mean, this is the best of the best paper. So I don't think it's absolutely pivotal that your Bible has paper printed in the Netherlands, but I'm just telling you from experience that this Bible paper in these Bibles is really special, And what I've noticed is that they come from a printing that was done in the Netherlands. So kudos to Youngblood, who I believe printed all of these Bibles in the Netherlands. I think your paper is just absolutely amazing. And sometimes you just get a special Bible that you say, wow, that's really done perfectly. And I would say the Allen that I have, the Allen Long Primer, is done quite perfectly. So now that I've talked at length about the best of the best quality Bible paper, I just want to give a shout out to some Bible publishers that I noticed have some quite good Bible paper. And I showed you Nelson. Nelson in general, even on their just average price range Bibles, have pretty good quality paper, not a lot of show through. Another publisher which would be very similar to Nelson would be Holman, and I think their Bibles are really good. Now I have here, which I don't know, this one just to me just grabs me. I like it. I've talked about it before. It's the Holman New King James Version large print thin line, and it's just such a classic design when you look on the inside here. But this is an old typeset, and yet you'll notice here there's really not a lot of show through. And what I think, my theory about this is actually really similar in width to the Nelson thin line that I showed you before, but it's interesting, there's actually less pages in the Holman, and yet they're the same thickness, which tells me that the paper in this, and I don't think it's as high quality paper technically, but it's actually thicker paper. It's kind of a thicker paper, I would say, and that helps with opacity. So here we are in the poetry sections where you ought to get a lot of show through, and even though this is printed very, very darkly, you're not getting a lot of show through. So kudos to Holman, especially on this edition, the New King James large print thin line. I think really good. I like the paper actually on this a lot. And again, in general, Nelson and Holman, even on their mid-range quality Bibles that you can get for $20, $30, you still get pretty good quality paper that doesn't have a lot of show through. One other Bible that stood out to me is from Church Bible Publishers, and this is a hand-size Bible. Now this particular one is the Classic Study Bible, or the Schofield Study Bible, in the hand size from Church Bible Publishers. And again, when I look at this, I know some people say it has maybe noticeable show through, but in my opinion, I think it's really quite good for such a small Bible. And I'm not seeing a lot of show through, and especially when you have such dark printing. Now the printing on this, I will say, with the red letter isn't always perfectly consistent. The red letter can have some inconsistency, which is pretty common with red letter printing. But the black letter is very consistent overall and looks great. And I think the paper on the hand size, at least the one that I have from Church Bible Publishers, I just really like this paper. Something about it, to me, is just really nice. And I don't always think Church Bible Publishers has the best paper, but in this case, I just really like the feel of it. So if you're looking for a King James Bible with some pretty good quality paper, check out the Church Bible Publishers. The hand size, at least on this Schofield Bible, Schofield Study Bible, I think has quite good paper. So that's a long discussion I've given you on Bible paper, but I think you can see that it's something that I do think is really important, and it's also a really interesting topic. So I would love to hear from those of you who actually like this sort of thing and are interested in this topic, to give me your thoughts and opinions in the comments section on Bible paper. What do you think about the Bible paper you've experienced? What's the best Bible paper in your opinion that you've seen? And what do you think is the importance of good Bible paper? Or is it not that important to you? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching me talk at length about this very important subject of Bible paper, brought to you from a First Perspective.